Hi everyone and welcome. I am so excited because in this video I'm going to show you step by step every single thing you need to know in order to make your very first 3D model in Tinkercad. In this video, I will give you the step by step of all the basic skills listed above my head, and then I'll say something like, pause the video, because I really want you to follow along with me. So make sure that you're logged into your Tinkercad account and that you're looking at a screen something like this, and let's begin. So you might see a button here under 3D Designs that says Create Your First 3D Design. You can go ahead and click on that, or you might see a blue button like I have that says Create, and you can click on that, and you have options, and you're looking for 3D Design. 3D Design. And once you click on that, Tinkercad will load your 3D design environment, which just means that you should see this blue grid that says Work Plane. And on the right-hand side, you'll see a bunch of shapes, colorful shapes. Once you get here, up at the top, you will see some strange words, probably 2 or 3 random words, maybe they're not even real words, that Tinkercad has automatically randomly named your file. We don't really want to keep that name, we want to change it. So go ahead and click on that and change your name to Basic Skills Demo. And then I'm going to click out of that, just anywhere, not on my title, and it automatically has saved this. And Tinkercad is saving all of your work in the background, so you don't have to worry about saving your file. Okay, we renamed our file. What's next? Creating and selecting shapes. So over on the right-hand side where you see all your colorful shapes, you're going to click on the cube, or they call it a box. It's red. You're going to click and hold down your mouse and drag your box over into the work plane. Okay, we have a 3D model. Good job, we did it. Once we have that, notice that around the box I have these other smaller squares, white ones and black ones, and these other kind of weird things. These are what we call handles, okay? And the handles are going to allow us to change our shape in many ways. If I click anywhere else, let's click on the work plane or in the white area, the handles go away. If I click once directly on the box, the handles come back, and now I'm selected on the shape. So I want you to try dragging a box or a cylinder or any of these other shapes onto your work plane and clicking on it and off of it. Pause your video and do that now. Okay, we'll mark that off and moving on to moving the shapes. So select onto your object, and on your keyboard you have arrow keys, 4 arrow keys, a left, a right, an up, and a down, and I want you to tap those. And notice that you'll see your shape moving to the left and right, and then towards you on the work plane and away from you on the work plane when you're doing up and down. Now you might think, okay, well how do I get it up? Maybe I want it to float. So there's a trick for that I want to show you. With your left hand, you're going to look for on your keyboard the key Control if you're on a Windows or a Chromebook, Control, CTRL, or if you're on a MacBook like I am, you're going to look for Command, or sometimes CMND. Look for that key and hold that key, and then tap the up arrow. And as I do that, you can see that my box is starting to float above the work plane. You can see the shadow underneath it. So if you want to move shapes up, you can move them with this little keyboard trick, Control or Command. Or you can also use your mouse. There is a black cone pointing up above the shape. If you hover over that, you click on that and drag, you can move the shape up and down. If I would like the shape to be back on my work plane or my table, so to speak, there's a trick for that too. all you have to do is find the letter D on your keyboard and press it, and it drops, D for drop, back to the work plane. Okay, see if you can get your shape to move around with your arrow keys, up and down, and then drop it back to the work plane. Pause the video if you need to. Okay, we're going to mark that off. We moved our shapes. Now we want to resize it. Those white handles and black handles on the sides of the cube will resize your object for you. So I'm going to click and drag out, and see I can make it longer. If I click on the corner, I can resize it like a left and right at the same time. And the one on the top of the cube right here allows me to make it taller. Okay, that's easy. That's resizing. I can also click onto one of these white handles, and I can type in exactly the number, the size that I would like for it to be. So you notice when I click, when I hover, so put my mouse there but don't click, I can see the numbers. If I click on it, the numbers will stay, and then I can actually click on that number and type in exactly the size that I would like for this to be. So I'm going to say 15, and that's 15 millimeters wide. And I can do the same thing for my height. Maybe I want it to be very short, 5 millimeters tall. See if you can resize shapes by clicking and dragging your handles, or by clicking on the white handles and typing in a number. Pause the video while I take a drink of my tea. Okay, we resized our shape. Now we want to rotate it. Maybe I want to make this cube sit up on its end, or maybe I want it to be sideways. I'm going to click on it, and notice part of the handles that we see are these U-shaped arrows. Okay, I see this one, I see this one. And when I hover over there, don't click yet, I see this blue circle. So if I click on that and I start dragging, I can rotate my shape around in a circle. Okay, make sure you keep your mouse inside of the blue circle. If you want to rotate it in a different direction, you look for a different set of arrows. So this one that I clicked moved the shape up like this, like a steering wheel. Okay. If I wanted it to rotate flat, like this, I can click here and rotate. Okay. And then there's one more angle, and that is forward and back. And in order to see this, we actually need to do the next thing here, which is changing your point of view. So let me show you that first. Now, I zoomed in here magically earlier without saying anything. I got a little closer to the shape. So let me show you how I did that. I'm doing that with my mouse. If you have maybe a scroll on your mouse, that could work. If you have a trackpad, you can take 2 fingers and put them close together and then separate them like this to zoom in, and then go the opposite direction to zoom back out. If none of that is working for you, that's no problem. You can use these buttons on the left-hand side of your screen. So see this cube at the top that says top and front? I can click on that and spin it to change where I'm looking from. And there is a plus and a minus for zooming in and out. And I can click on that and zoom in and out. I can also click on the house, which is called the home view, to bring me back to where we started. Okay, so rotating shapes and changing your point of view. Once I change this point of view here and zoom in, I will see that here's that third U-shaped arrow, and I can spin my cube around. Okay. Earlier I said to make sure your mouse stays in the blue circle, and that is because if you go out of the blue circle, you can change in just tiny amounts at a time, which is helpful for some cases, but probably not for us. Okay, pause that video, make sure you can rotate and change your point of view. Okay, that was probably a lot because changing your point of view is the hardest thing to get used to in Tinkercad. So don't worry if you don't have a handle on it yet. Okay, Now we are up to aligning shapes. So I'm going to click on my home view to go back to my work plane. I'm going to get rid of my cube because I don't need it anymore. And I just hit delete on my keyboard. If you don't have delete, or if your delete is not working, you can click on your shape and you can press the trash button, trash can, up at the very top over here. And go back to my home view. And now I want spheres, okay? And I would like 3 spheres. So imagine a snowman, okay? So go ahead and drag 3 spheres out onto your work plane. And we want to stack these spheres up on top of each other if it's going to be a snowman, right? One sphere, another sphere, another sphere. So how do we do that? We know how to move our shapes with the mouse by clicking and dragging them around, and by tapping them around, and by moving them up. So we could use our mouse and just try to do this ourselves, okay? Moving them up and down and around. And yeah, okay, this is getting there. But this is kind of hard to do it this way, to be precise. So I want you to try that right now. Just try it with your mouse and your keyboard and see how close you can get. I think I did a pretty good job. Go ahead and do this while I'm talking. I'm going to make mine a little bit higher maybe. Yeah, this is not quite how I want them. I mean, it's fine, but it took me some time. Oh, and then I clicked on it and it just moved off of the side. So give this a try. Frustrate yourself a little bit, and then I'll give you the secret, the easy way to do it. None of you are going to pause the video. You want to see the easy way of doing it. Okay, here's the easy way. So I'm going to come back to, I'm going to delete this because everything's nuts, okay? I'm going to come back and just start with my 3 fresh spheres that I added to my work plane. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to select all 3 of your objects at one time. So how will we do that? Notice as I'm clicking before, if I click on another one, it gets rid of the selection on the first, right? I can only click one at a time. So in order to select all 3 at the same time, you can do it 2 ways. The first way is by clicking anywhere else, okay, on the work plane or in the white space, and drag, and see as I'm dragging, I'm getting this red dotted square. I'm going to drag around all my shapes and then let go. And I have all 3 shapes selected. You can see my handles here are all the way around. That's option 1. I also like option 2 a little bit better. Option 2 is you're going to take your left hand and you are going to look for the Shift key on your keyboard. Shift. You're going to hold Shift while you click on every shape. So hold Shift, click, keep holding, click, keep holding, click, and now I have each shape selected. This is really helpful if you've got a lot of shapes on your work plane and you only want 3 specific ones or 4 specific ones, whatever it is. You can hold Shift and click, click, click on exactly what you want. Okay, here's the magic. Once I have all 3 of them selected, I need to align them. So up at the top, there's a menu right up here. And there is a button 4 buttons in that looks like a line and 2 rectangles. And it says Align, Align. And I'm going to click on that. And when I click on that, I get a new set of handles, control handles, onto my work plane that are these 3 dots, okay? And go ahead and just hover, don't click, but hover over one of them and notice that it's showing you where the shapes are going to move if you click that button. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and it aligned all of the shapes together in the same line, just like kids lining up for lunch, right? Get in line, your teacher says. These spheres are in line now, okay? And now I can't click here anymore because they're already aligned. I have another option here for clicking. I have this button here, and that's going to take them all and it's going to align them together. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And what you're going to notice is that it looks like there's only one sphere now, and that's because they're all in the same spot. So I'm going to click on one of them and drag it up with that black cone, or if I wanted, I could click and I could use that trick we learned earlier where I'm holding Control or Command and tapping the up arrow, or holding it, I'm holding it in this case, and there we are. I've aligned them and I have made a snowman. Okay, please make sure you know how to use that align tool and that you can get some shapes aligned in your work plane. Pause that video. I need more tea. We're so close. We're so close to being able to do our project, which is going to be an ice cream cone. Okay, our last two things are grouping shapes and then holes and solids. So grouping. Grouping means that I'm going to make my three shapes together into one compound shape, which means that instead of moving these around separately, I can move them all together. To group a shape, I need to select again the objects that I would like to group them in. So a reminder, to select multiple shapes, I can click and drag with my mouse over all of the shapes. Or I can hold Shift on my keyboard and click, click, click. Once I have the objects selected that I would like to group together, I go up to my menu and I look for this button here with a square and a circle, look together, and I'm going to click on that. Okay, and in this case, nothing really seems to have changed that much because they were all the same color anyway. But now when I come back to this shape and I just click one time on it, it has all three of them selected. They are now inseparable friends. We have to move them all together, okay? Now if I do some changes, meaning like maybe I try to resize it, it resizes them all together as one. If I rotate it, it rotates them all together as one. If you decide you don't want them to be grouped, no problem. You can just ungroup them, click on it, and the button next to group says ungroup. Go ahead and click on that, and then click off of the shapes and you have three separate objects again. That's grouping shapes. Okay, last thing is holes and solids. So I am going to delete all of this. You can put yours to the side or delete it, up to you. So far, all the shapes that we have pulled into our work plane have been colorful shapes, but there are two others at the top here that have striped gray lines on them. So let's see what these are. Let's pull out this cylinder with a striped gray line. Okay, if yours is orange, delete it. We don't want it to be orange, we want it to be striped gray because we want it to be a hole, And then grab another box, okay? I'm gonna make my box just a little bit bigger. A hole here, I'm gonna make my cylinder a little taller by grabbing that white square on the top. And I'm going to align these. Okay, so as a reminder, click and drag for both shapes. Align tool is at the top. I'm gonna click on that and I get these circle handles here. I'm gonna click to move them to the center. Oops, if I lose my handles, no problem. Just reselect, come back to align, and align like that. And now if I select both of these shapes and I click on group, something unusual is going to happen. Look at that. The cylinder that was a hole cut out a cylinder out of my cube, took out that space in the plastic, or if you were 3D printing it, it would probably be plastic. So these two shapes are holes, and anytime you group them together, they're gonna remove any of the solids that they are overlapping. And you can make any of these shapes a hole. So pick any of them that you want. Maybe you wanna grab a cone or a pyramid, drag it out onto your plane, and then up at the top you see pyramid and you see a solid with the color that it is, and right next to it you see the word hole. You can click on hole, and now your pyramid is a hole. Same thing for cone. It's purple. I could turn it into a hole by clicking here. Again, I can put it back if I decide I don't actually want that. And if I click on the color, I can actually change its color as well. Okay, that was it. Make sure you can change shapes between holes and solids and group a hole and a solid together. Now that we know all of these basic skills, we're ready to start making something. So let's make an ice cream cone, okay? I'm going to delete everything. I'm going to click on my home button and get back to my beginning. If you want to start a new file, you can, or you can just keep working on the one that you're on. Here we go. It's going to be so fast. Are you ready? We're going to make an ice cream cone, so we need a cone. That's the purple one. We're going to drag that cone out, okay? I'm going to zoom in a little just so we can get a little closer. And I'm going to click on my cone color. It's by default purple, but let's change it to what an ice cream cone might actually look like. Maybe this light brown. Then I need to rotate the cone because I don't want my ice cream on the ground. I want it to be upright. So I'll zoom out a little bit, grab that handle on the top, and keep my mouse inside the circle, click and drag so that it is upright. Okay? Now I have a cone. If you need to pause that video. We dragged in a cone, we changed the cone's color, we rotated the cone so it's upright. Okay, now next step. Here's what we're doing. This cone right here does not have room for ice cream because it's all solid. So we need to cut it out so that we can put some ice cream in there. The way we're going to do this is by copying and pasting that cone. So you can do Command-C on a Mac or Control-C on Windows or Chromebook, and then Control-V to paste. So C for copy, V for paste, Control-V, and I have another cone right next to it. Another way you could do this is by clicking on that cone and doing Command or Control-D, and it makes a copy, a duplicate, right in the same place. That's a little bit more tricky and more advanced. So let's copy and paste, and you have another cone right next to it. And we're going to make this cone a hole. We're going to use this cone shape to cut out the middle of our cone. Go ahead and pause that video if you need to. I copied and pasted, and I made one cone into a hole. Now we're going to align these two cones, all right? And we want the whole cone to be right in the middle. So I'm going to hold Shift and click, so I'm selected on both of them. I'm going to go back up to my Align tool at the top, and I'm going to press right here. And you can see now they're overlapping. They're exactly the same size and shape, so it's showing me that they're in the same spot. Once they're aligned, I'm going to click on that hole, and I'm going to drag it up. So I used, that was so quick, I'm going to show you one more time. I'm going to click on the cone, that's the hole, and I'm going to drag it up with my little black cone at the top, or if you prefer keyboard, you can hold Control or Command and tap that up arrow. Just a couple of millimeters, it doesn't need to be a lot. And now you can see that the cone is inside of that ice cream cone, and I can group them together by using the group button here at the top menu. Okay, here's time to catch up. That was a lot of steps, so pause the video if you need to. We aligned the cones, we moved the whole cone up a couple of millimeters, and then we grouped them together. And look at, we have like a real ice cream cone now that looks so cool. Okay, The last thing that we're going to do is we're going to add our ice cream scoop on top. So we'll grab a sphere and we'll drag it out. Now you can do this, just put it on the work plane if you want, and then move it up. We know how to do that now. Move it up and over. That's totally fine. Or if you want, you could drag one out and use your align tool. Align them in the center, and then drag up your sphere. Whoops, I had them both selected. Click off, then click just on the sphere and move it up. And then you can choose your favorite flavor. I like chocolate, so I'm going to turn it to this dark brown. I like dark chocolate. And I now have an ice cream cone. If you want your ice cream to be not so perfect, maybe you want to squish it down, maybe you want to add another color, another flavor, maybe you want a triple scoop. It is up to you. You are the designer here. So go ahead and make your cone look however you would like it to look. And congratulations, because you made a 3D model. Awesome job, everyone.